October is Autism Awareness Month in Canada, and last week we spoke to Dr. Isabel Smith about autism and the state of care in our country. Today we're going to introduce you to a charitable organization in Scarborough that's doing great work with their autism-centered social enterprise, Goodness Gift. My name is Eric Bowman. I'm the Communications Specialist at the Canadian Psychological Association, and this is Mindful. A social enterprise is a business, one whose primary purpose is not necessarily profit, but rather achieving a positive social objective. In Canada, we have social enterprises across the country, like 10C Shared Space in Guelph. They develop food ventures for people from diverse backgrounds. Or the Akajartijit Solidarity Co-op, which trains Indigenous people to provide general contractor services, and they work with Inuit communities on housing issues. Now, many social enterprises are part of charitable organizations, so that the uplift they provide their clients is supported by the resources of the larger organization. Such is the case with Goodness Gift, a social enterprise of the South Asian Autism Awareness Centre, or SAAC.
So my name is Soruba Easwarakumar. I'm the Vocational Training Specialist at Goodness Gift, which is the social enterprise created by the SAAC Autism Centre.
And tell me about the SAAC Autism Centre. I know that initially it was created to help South Asians in the autism community, but it's since grown. So tell me a little bit about how it started and where it is now.
So the SAAC Autism Center started in 2008, I believe. So it started by our founder, Geeta Murthy, who is trained in classical dance and had some clients who were on the autism spectrum. And through that, she had volunteers from her dance as well as other people who started volunteering to help create like day programs and little park days for individuals with autism. And that progressively has grown. And now we have a nonprofit organization. We're located in Scarborough. We have 2 campuses in the Scarborough area, and we're able to serve more than 600 families, I believe we're at right now, with quite a few staff. We provide different services, including speech therapy, occupational therapy, as well as a day program, arts programs, and Goodness Gift as well.
It started, I guess, then as a dance program. People would be involved in dance, and I see you do an awful lot with art now, a lot of art programs. I worked for the Dementia Society here in Ottawa for a long time, and we had a significant art program that started while I was there and has since grown. And there's really a great sense of community that comes with things like music and dance and art and that sort of thing. Tell me about how that came about and how that's going.
So we actually just wrapped up a musical on October 18th, which was a musical about the story of one of our clients and their mom called Amma, Where Are You? A lot of arts and dance have been incorporated in SAAC programming, especially because a lot of our clients are very incredible artists, singers, and dancers. So different programs like that have happened. We had a whole art exhibition, and we have an art hub that works to create different artwork and commission artwork for different people, as well as embed those products into our Goodness Gift items. And
so how does that work, for people with autism? What makes art or dance or music, like a whole musical, what makes that something that helps them, that appeals to them, that makes them uniquely suited for that?
Each individual, autism is it's a spectrum, so everyone has their differences and their different characteristics. Art and dance have been things that people have been very passionate about. We have clients who are really well versed at memorizing dance routines and getting practice in sort of following those memory steps and stuff. So it just happens to be something that a lot of people enjoy. It's a creative sort of project that people can work on that doesn't require very rigorous rules and expectations. And that creativity really helps our staff members help provide different people with different needs an expanded ability to work around.
I just saw a study that showed children specifically with autism are very drawn to things like numbers, letters, things that fit together in a certain pattern. And I know that over the years, there have been many studies about how people who are drawn to numbers are also drawn to music because it has a similar structure, that the setup of something mathematical and something musical is often very similar. So I imagine that there's some sort of connection there too.
Yeah.
So tell me about Goodness Gift. This is artistic as well, but also a social enterprise. I've worked in the social enterprise space for a long time, and it's something that I'm quite interested in and that I love a lot. So tell me how that came about and the artistic nature of the project.
So Goodness Gift was created around 2018. SAAC has an adult program called the Living and Learning Program, which prepares adults with autism for job readiness skills and gaining independence. And we were finding that a lot of the individuals who are graduating that program were ready to work, but we were finding difficulties finding workplaces that were providing those opportunities. And in really traditional SAAC fashion, we decided to create that ourselves. So around the holiday times, with the support of volunteers and living and learning staff and clients, we created gift baskets that were sold to our community as well as custom volunteer networks and families here. And then since then, we've been able to expand with funding support as well as the sales. We've been able to provide employment for up to 40 people in a year. So we're hiring individuals with neurodiverse needs. We create a very inclusive and supportive workspace from the interview process up to when they finish their contracts, and we're supporting them finding external jobs as well. So the premise of Goodness Gift is we're a gift box company, but we also create candles in-house that we add to our gift boxes and other products we sell on our website and at different events and for corporate orders. When we pick the products for our boxes, we try to pick products that are from small businesses in Ontario and in Canada who also have meaningful stories, as well as products we're able to make in-house. That way, with every box that is purchased, it's helping us provide that employment, but also sharing the meaningful stories behind these other companies and having an overall impact for everyone involved.
And so what other products are you making in-house aside from the candles?
The candles we make, it's not just pouring wax into containers, but the actual vessels are made by us too. So it's a mixture of, it's sort of like a cement mixture that we are able to creatively think of the different colors we think will sell and the scents that would match the colors and things like that. We also include artwork in some of our products. So some of the art designs that are created by the Art Hub, we're able to bring those to life on greeting cards and notebooks and stationery items that people are very interested in purchasing. And then in our design process for our info cards and things like that, we include artwork as well as clients, the different employees we hire help create our blog posts and different elements like that.
Excellent. One of the social enterprises that I've worked with for a long time here in Ottawa is with a charity called Operation Come Home. And we run some social enterprises to give youth experiencing homelessness a chance at employment so that then they can put that on a resume and go on. And one of them is called Bottle Works. And a few years ago, and the way this one works is restaurants in Ottawa would have bottles left over at the end of every week, and they would come and collect the empties, return them to the beer store. The restaurant would get a tax receipt for the donation, and the actual legwork would be done by our youth. And a couple of years ago, when the pandemic hit and the restaurants shut down and they had to move to residential buildings and picking up people's empties directly from their houses, it became, we think, the first actual profitable social enterprise in Canada where it actually was putting money back into the charity. Is that a goal for you guys? I know that most social enterprise never actually ends up becoming a specific revenue driver because it's such a long road to go. But is that a goal for you guys?
I think with all the sales and everything we get, we try to funnel that back into provide more employment. There's, even when we have our applications for our fulfillment associate role, we have extensively long wait list of people who are interested. So the goal is to help, especially since COVID, a lot of people who had graduated weren't getting experience and work experience. So a lot of the associates who started with us, it was their first job experience here. So we want to help them build their first experiences here, build that confidence in themselves and be able to know how to conduct interviews and participate in other workplaces. So hopefully we're able to bring more people in So really, the more sales we're able to do, the bigger we can have our production and the more people we can provide employment for.
You said earlier that one of the reasons it started is because you were trying to help, people with autism find employment, and it's difficult to do so. A lot of employers, I presume that one of the barriers there is that there's just a misunderstanding of it, or a lack of understanding of what autism is. And so employers may be more reticent to hire somebody when they don't really understand what may come of it. Is this showing them, hey, here's, something very good for you as an employer to be able to hire people who we've hired?
Yeah, I believe with the employers who haven't been able to provide employment, there is, I think, a misconception of sort of how much effort, it's beyond their limits of how much they can provide, and they have to go above and beyond to accommodate, but it isn't necessarily like that. We've been able to connect with employers and help some of our associates who are ready to transition into those employment spaces. One of the more recent ones is IKEA at the Scarborough Town Centre has hired 3 of our associates who have now been working there for I think 2-3 months, and they've been excelling incredibly. And we have job coaches here at Goodness Gift, and they help those associates prep for the interview. And then even when they're starting at that workplace, they're with them to help them transition in. And during that time, we find that the employer also likes to see how we're working with the associates. But really, it does start with the individual. Even when we hire at Goodness Gift, one of the first things we do is a 1-page profile, which lets each individual let us know what their best qualities are, what's important to them, and how they can be supported. How people can be supported can vary significantly from person to person, even if their diagnosis is the same. So letting them be the ones to dictate what that support is from the get-go has had a huge impact in how we're able to support them and how quickly we're able to have them settle in and be involved in Goodness Gift. So we were able to bring that to the employers we go to as well.
Now that makes sense, because obviously autism is such a wide variety of people who have who have autism. I'm certain that there isn't a one size fits all way, right? Because the other part of this is, one, are we going to hire somebody? And 2, how do we then make sure that that person feels welcome when they are at our company, when they're at our business? And so when you guys do that, you get them to do this 1-page, this is, what my goals are, this is what I like. How do you make a Goodness Gift a welcoming environment for people who work there? And maybe you can give me a specific example.
So even our non-neurodiverse staff, myself and some of the admin staff, we do the 1-page profile as well. We have these on display so everyone can know sort of how each individual likes to be supported. In the general operations at Goodness Gift, we have varying levels of support and resources set ahead of time. And then we provide the associates an opportunity to choose sort of what works with them and what helps them. So just as an example, with the candle making, it requires a lot of small steps. And we have those steps written down on paper with visuals. They're written step by step, broken down into different sections. And then we also have videos that explain some of the processes as well. And like I mentioned, we have job coaches who are there as well. So when people are first starting, we have them following the manual to a T. That way they know that these are the steps they need to follow. And when they get familiar and they're more confident with it, slowly the manual may not be needed as much. And they're able to do most of the steps on their own. And they know the job coach is right there if they need support beyond that.
Tell me a bit about the candle making process. When I was a kid, I used to go to this. Our school would take us to a farm near Ottawa called the McSkimming Farm, which was like a learning farm. And you could go and see how they tap the trees to get maple syrup and all that. And one of the stations and activities was candle making. And you would get a string and you would dip it into candle wax. And then you would walk around a table to give it time to dry. And then you'd dip it again and you'd walk around and it would dry. And then you'd do it, 50 or 60 times, and then you would have a candle on a string that you could light the wick. I'm guessing it's a little different than that, what you guys do.
So these candles are actually in vessels. I have one right here. So the vessel itself we've made with a mixture of hydrostone or distilled water, and it's sort of a tested process we went through for several months with professionals who were helping us. So once the vessel is made, it needs to dry and it needs to be sealed to make sure it's heat safe. And afterwards, there is, like you mentioned, there's a wick we put in. Because this isn't a vessel, we're able to use sort of a stopper at the top to make sure it stays straight. And then we pour the wax and it's scented based on the scent that the customer has ordered. And we make sure our candles are made with 100% natural soy wax. And then we have a set amount of days it has to dry, and then set processes in terms of how to make sure the quality is good enough for it to be sold, or what needs to be done to make sure the quality is up to standards. Things like making sure there's no air bubbles, reheating the top, making sure the level of the wax is where it should be, and things like that.
All right. So if an employer out there is listening, somebody who might want to hire one of your clients who's currently working at Goodness Gift, what advice would you give them? What should employers be looking for, and how should they go about it?
I think if you're connecting with us, we're more than willing and ready to help. One of the things is not to assume that what works for one person works for another, and really starting with the individual, working with them to see what resources they need, and then starting from there. A lot of the times it isn't any drastic changes. It might be something simple as writing the instructions you're providing, or simplifying how you are saying instructions, or breaking steps down into more comprehensive steps. It isn't the most hardest thing to do. It's just, might be something someone's not familiar with, or it might not be something they've thought of adding and implementing. We've found that even with IKEA, some of the resources they are creating, they know it's working with other staff too. So they're not necessarily doing this for just one individual, but it's tools that are just expanding their workforce as well.
That makes sense. How did you get involved in Goodness Gift and in the SAAC?
I started volunteering at SAAC around 2018. I was going to university in Scarborough, so it was closer by, and I had heard because SAAC did start with a more Tamil audience. I am Tamil and I speak Tamil, so I wanted to see if I can provide some support in that. But really, I got to meet the families here. There's a big network of families who attend all our events, who show support for each other's children, as well as the volunteers and other people I met. And I was very fortunate to have been hired as a job coach right after I graduated. And since then, I've gone back to school and I've come back, and I've been able to be the vocational training specialist for almost a year now and help oversee Goodness Gift operations sort of more holistically.
And you said you're Tamil, and that's how you got involved in the first place when SAAC started a SAAC, you call it, right? That was sort of the bent at the time. That was the focus. What is unique about that community when it comes to autism?
I think not just Tamil communities, but newcomer communities as well. A lot of the families might not have been aware of what resources were available in Canada, or even what autism was, or an understanding, because things are different in different countries and things have changed progressively a lot, especially in the last 2 decades. When I was a volunteer, I would work with someone's child and I get to speak to their parents at the end in their language. There is more comfortability for them to also ask questions versus them trying to speak in English, maybe if that's not their language they're comfortable with. But newcomer families can struggle financially as well. So not knowing where to go for financial aids and resources like that, that's sort of where SAAC was able to provide support and provide those translated resources. And we have such a diverse staff as well. So we're able to provide translated resources and translated programs. SAAC has a CARES program, which is focused on caregiver mental health. And that program is offered in different languages as well, based on the community needs.
Caregiver mental health is something that I think gets overlooked a lot. It's something that's so important. We just did a podcast a couple of weeks ago about child language brokering. So this is the idea that newcomers to Canada very often have to use their children as translators in a lot of ways to explain the hospital system or the banking system or something of that nature, and that the child takes on a lot of extra responsibility. And I imagine if you have a child with autism and you're a newcomer and you speak a language aside from, I imagine in Toronto, English and French are fairly easy to get by, but anything else, you have to find specific resources in a community. And that's where you guys come in. Is that something that you've encountered a lot? I mean, you obviously have a very big, diverse staff, but how often does somebody come where you are unable to find someone to translate for them, to speak the language that they came with?
From my sort of role, I haven't as often in Tamil. I've been speaking Tamil, and I have other staff who speak other common languages. But we do have our intake department who's available to provide interpreters or translators where needed. And technology has also been very helpful for families. I do find personally, when I have spoken to clients or caregivers who are Tamil, there's more that is said to me in Tamil than maybe they would say in English. So being able to speak that first language is providing that comfortable space for them to fully and freely sort of address their concerns that they might not otherwise be able to.
And is there a barrier for newcomers who speak another language in getting their children or their family member diagnosed with autism in the first place, getting that sort of assessment done?
I think once they know that there is that assessment process, there is quite a few resources, and we also work to provide those resources. I think a lot of the challenges come when they don't know that their child might have autism, and with autism specifically, or a lot of neurodiversities, early intervention is really important. So if they don't know and they haven't addressed that earlier on in life, it just makes it more difficult to provide care and support later on. But having worked with the CARES program and seeing a lot of younger parents as well, I think there is now more understanding, especially with schools. Schools are able to let parents know of resources that are available, and centers like SAAC and other autism centers are more known, and people are more aware of where they can go for support.
Yeah, last week we were talking about autism and early diagnosis in particular, and how important that is, and the steps that can be taken to improve someone's entire life. The earlier you get involved, the more involved in society that they become. And that's really what you're doing, is it not? Is just getting people with autism involved with people who don't have autism, and making a community out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with SAAC, I think what sets us unique is that we have program for all ages, and it's not just the therapy sort of program. So we have the day adult program, and we have our employment program, and there's programs for caregivers, parental caregivers, siblings, and different ways to engage. Volunteers are engaging as well. So these are people who might not themselves have autism or have family members who have autism, but they're aware and they're able to share that if they ever meet anyone who might need our sources.
And how can people get involved with Goodness Gift and with SAAC, somebody who wants to support what it is you're doing?
With Goodness Gift, if you know a potential employer, if you are an employer yourself, I would say email us at goodnessgift@saac.org. We're more than happy to connect and see where there's potential for us to work together. Anyone who's purchasing for the holiday season and is looking for new gift ideas, goodnessgift.com is a great place to go. We offer pickup and delivery in Canada and US. We also have a holiday market coming up December 14th in the Scarborough area, which is a great way to see us, Goodness Gift, as well as different vendors, and we'll have a lot of amazing food. I can say it'll be a great event to attend if you are in the Scarborough area. For any inquiries about SAAC or any ways to support SAAC through donations or attending our fundraising event, check out our website at saac.org, or you can email info@saac.
I will put those websites and email links into the show notes here, so anyone listening can go to the show notes and check those out and find out more about what SAAC does and to get involved.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thanks to you at home for listening, streaming, downloading, and sharing today's episode. To learn more about SAAC and Goodness Gift, the links are now in the show notes. And be sure to check out last week's episode with Dr. Isabel Smith as Autism Month in Canada comes to a close. Mindful is written, hosted, and published by me, Eric Bowman. Our producer and editor is Jamie Montgomery. And as always, our theme music is Avenues by David Taylor.